Hi friends, Cole here. Thanks so much for joining me. I am in Ballina, Australia, and believe it or not, it's a couple days before Christmas. This is definitely not the Christmas view that I am used to, but I will take it. So a couple days out of Christmas, so that means that Emerge is starting in 10 days. So if you don't know what that is, I'll tell you about it real briefly. Big old birds here, so loud, before we get into a little bit of the chat, the talk. So Emerge is an 8-week online exploration of turning our wounds into wisdom. And the way that we'll do that is that it's a community-based self-exploration. And we blend ancient philosophy with modern therapeutic insights. And we also have Ayurveda and yoga and mindfulness and neuroscience and so many different, we're coming at it from so many different angles, encouraging you to be able to create your own architecture for healing. I don't want to tell you what to do. I'll tell you what works for me. I'll tell you what I know has worked for other people, and we explore. It's all a big experiment. And this is for those of us who have substance addiction. That's only one form. Substance addiction, perfectionism, this negative self-talk, workaholism. There's so many ways, food. There's so many ways that when we're in discomfort that we reach out for something to change the way that we feel. And we start to realize often that there's an issue when we realize that we're continually doing a behavior when it has negative consequences. We want to stop, and we keep doing it. And that takes so many different forms. So that's what this exploration is around. It is intense. It is beautiful. It is confronting. It's challenging, and it's absolutely worth it. So if you're ready for that, if you're interested and curious about that, then reach out. There's a link. There's a link in the description. And something that I just wanted to check in with today is the importance of stating our wins. So a little bit ago, I talked about a class not long ago about savoring the sukha. And this is kind of similar to that. So we have a negativity bias. I won't go too deep into this. If you want to learn more about the negativity bias, go back a few videos. The negativity bias, though, is our innate wiring that makes us remember things that hurt us, often physically hurt us or emotionally hurt us, criticism, judgments, the way that we're like, I'm not good enough. These beliefs that we've maybe absorbed somehow, or we tell ourselves that I can't, that I'm not, different things like this. So what I want to talk today briefly about is wins. So this really shifted for me. So I was in a program with a friend of mine who's a coach named Nick Wood. And every week, whenever we would meet up into our coaching group, everybody had to say their wins for the week. And, first we have a society where we're not really supposed to brag about ourselves, or somehow having some sort of pride in our accomplishments feels like bragging. So first it's just kind of hard. So I'll take a moment right now and you can reflect and ask yourself, what is something that you're proud of about you? Maybe something came right up, or maybe that was kind of a challenging question. So essentially we're flexing this muscle, and not just of our pride, but of our wins, the whole spectrum of wins. And this can look like very seemingly small things. I got out of bed today. Maybe you haven't for the last few days. Or you didn't drink today. That's a big one. They're all big. They can be seemingly small, but sometimes they're big. You held your tongue. when you really wanted to lash out like you normally do. You said no to the 10th cookie. Even though you had the 9, that's a win. So there's so many different things here. But whenever I started the program, I was like, I don't really know. Like, I don't know if I had any wins this week. And then I would kind of start thinking, and I would start kind of looking through my diary of the things that I'd done this week. And then I'm like, oh, well, I went to this social event and I actually had anxiety about going, but I went anyway. And it turned out really good. Or I met a new friend. I wrote some more of the manual. That's been a lot of my wins lately because I'm writing a new teacher training. So I'm like, oh, I finished that chapter. And sometimes it's like I sat down for an hour, and when nothing came, instead of beating myself up about it, I just shut my computer and went for a walk. That's a win. So it's not always what we think it would be a win. Sometimes it's like the reverse. And often a win is connected to a challenge. So maybe something that looks like a challenge, we can see the silver lining of it, and that's a win. So a good question is kind of about COVID. And I did this on my Facebook. I had this question. It's like, what has happened during COVID that wouldn't have happened otherwise? What silver lining has happened during COVID? And some people are like, at first glance, it's like, oh no, this has been horrible. But then you're like, well, I got to spend more time. I got to have tea with my partner in the mornings when normally we're off to work. Or I, was able to start creating this other thing that I've always wanted to but never had time for. A win doesn't mean that it takes away the challenge, but it begins to shift the way we look at it. So I really encourage you to see if you can do this for a week. And I encourage you to find a partner to do it with. So find a friend, a housemate, a partner, and decide how you want to do it, or do it in your journal. So maybe every night, if you're a daily writer, write a couple wins for the day. And the more that you do it, the easier that it is. And, I'm doing it with my partner right now. We've been doing it weekly. And sometimes it still really takes me, I still really have to think about it. So I want to start doing them daily and just writing a couple things. This is also very similar to like the gratitude list, some things that you're grateful for or wins. And it's really important not to look for just the ones that are obvious, but the little ones. Like I had a moment of connection with my barista today, and rather than looking at my phone while I ordered and not even, seeing the person across from me, we, had an exchange, and she had a beautiful smile, and, it was just, a beautiful moment. This morning I went for a run that I've been wanting to go on for a few days, and that I've been thinking about but never doing, that I finally did. And there was this tree that I've been looking at while I've been kind of driving up and down. I'm staying at my partner's family's house right now. And I wanted to know what kind of tree this was. And I stopped on my run today, and I have this little plant identifier app. And I identified the tree, and it's called a Poinsettia tree. And it just brought me so much joy. I love this little plant identification app. And like that really feels like stopping to smell the roses and stopping to plant identify my tree. But just these little moments that had I not written that down or came back and reflected on it, I would have forgot about it. Our mind just forgets about things. Had I had an interaction where somebody like honked at me and screamed as they drove past, I probably wouldn't forget that as quickly. But I probably would have forgotten quicker that I stopped and had a moment with this gorgeous tree or with the barista. So that's kind of what I mean around that some of the good things can slide by. So by celebrating our wins, by seeking gratitude, and by sharing it or writing it or taking a moment to pause with it, savoring the sukha, it embeds more. And not only do we get to revisit that moment, but our mind our brain works on pattern recognition. So when we get used to looking, we're not only changing our present and remembering the past of what happens, but it's changing the pattern recognition, our perspective and our lens for the future. So this is actually quite potent and quite powerful. I know often it's cliche of like, what are your wins or what are your gratitudes? But no, this is potent. It's very, very powerful. So we are shifting our pattern recognition for the future as well, and we're literally changing the way that we will see reality. So I encourage you, let me know how that goes. So maybe daily, maybe find someone, have some social accountability, that always helps me. Find someone that you're going to check in with weekly to celebrate your wins. And often I like to do, what were your wins? Give me 3 wins and 3 challenges. That's how we start a lot of our groups. We start the Emerge group. What are 3 wins? What's your weather? 3 wins and 3 challenges is what I like to do. And often the wins and the challenges, they play off of each other. And I think that's really beautiful. When sometimes we would only see something as a challenge, but then we get to see the symbiotic nature of it. So I'll quit rambling. Let me know if this resonates with you, and let me know, try it for a little bit and let me know how it goes. And again, Emerge starts in about 10 days and we have a couple spots left. So if you'd like to join, then reach out to me. My website and the contact info to get a hold of me is all in the description. And I would love to hear from you and love to take a journey with you. Also have a yoga teacher training coming up in March. It'll be my first one. I'm doing it with my sister, Jack St. Pierre, and we're having so much fun creating it. It's kind of like we're having a yoga baby together is what it feels like. So we're writing the manual right now and really looking forward to sharing it. So any questions about that, reach out as well. Happy holidays.